Welcome. My name is Catherine Hamblett. I'm Superintendent of Schools in Litchfield, New Hampshire, SAU 27. Tonight we have an opportunity to bring you a program to describe Warrant Article 1, which is a bond article for a new elementary school in Litchfield, New Hampshire. With us this evening we have School Board member Cindy Couture, who is head of the Building Committee, and representing the architectural firm, Dan Cecil, Harriman Architects. We also want to thank the Cable Committee for allowing us to give you this presentation prior to deliberative session on February 7th at 1 o'clock, Campbell High School, and before the vote, of course, March 9th. Thank you. Cindy?
Yes, thank you. My name is Cindy Couture. I am a member of the Litchfield School Board and currently chairing the Building Committee. What I'd like to do right now is just give you a brief history of how we got to the point we're at today. For about a year and a half, a citizens group known as the Space Needs Committee worked on the problem of inadequate space in Litchfield. After looking at several different options for solving the space in the Litchfield School District, they settled on 2 or 3 options that went to community forums to get feedback from the community. After the feedback from the community on the preferred option, the Space Needs Committee made a recommendation to the school board. The recommendation was to raise the Griffin Memorial Building and build 2 new elementary schools, one for grades 1 through 3 up by the LMS, Litchfield Middle School, and one for grades 4 and 5 in the SAU at the Griffin site. The school board decided to go ahead with the plans for the new elementary school by the Litchfield Middle School, but to delay a decision on the Griffin building to allow time for community input to review the extensive studies that have taken place and make an informed decision on the long-range future of the Griffin Memorial Building. A phased-in approach to solving the space needs was decided on to ease the tax burden on the community. Harriman and Associates was chosen as the architectural firm, and they have been working with the building committee to prepare plans for a 600-student elementary school. The architect has met with all of the Griffin Memorial Building staff, met with local police and fire officials, have met with the building inspector and the road agent, and members of the bus representatives from the bus company. There have also been preliminary studies by an environmental engineer and a traffic consultant, as well as multiple meetings with the State Department of Education to be sure the proposal meets all the needs and requirements. And right now, we'd have Dan Cecil with us here from Harriman Associates, who will present to you the site overview and the building overview.
Hi, my name is Dan Cecil. I am the architect of the new Litchfield Elementary School. I'm a partner at Harriman Associates, and I lead the education team in the office, and I'm very happy to be here tonight to have the opportunity to walk the community through the site plan and the floor plan and give you all the information that you would need in order to understand the project. We are a 80-person architecture and engineering firm. We're actually the 6th oldest firm in the country. We're 130 years old, and we've been building schools all over New England all of that time. And it's quite a privilege from our part to be able to have a chance to work on this school with you. Right now what I'm going to do is we're going to pull up onto the screen images of the site plan and then images of the building plan so I can describe, and you can get more information from the superintendent's office, where there are plans and site plans to look at, and we'll have handouts at the deliberative session on February 7th.
A Litchfield Elementary School, building for our future. Why do we need a new school? To address the overcrowding at all 3 Litchfield schools. Currently, the Griffin Memorial Building is very overcrowded. Right now, we have 5th grade in portables at the Litchfield Middle School, and our superintendent's office takes up several classrooms at Campbell High School. By building a school for grades 1 through 4, putting 5th grade at the Griffin Memorial Building and the SAU offices at the Griffin Memorial Building, it relieves the overcrowding at all 3 of the Litchfield schools. To provide the needed educational services to students. Right now at the Litchfield Middle School, several 5th grades are still in the middle school building, as well as a teacher is currently on wheels providing services. At Griffin Memorial School, the music teacher has been on wheels for a number of years. There's a lack of a computer classroom, and special ed services are provided in substandard areas to meet the short and long-term space needs of the district. Short-term, grades 1 through 4 will be removed from the Griffin building and will be housed in the new elementary school.
On your screen now, you'll see a copy of the latest site plan of the new elementary school. And just to orient everybody, on the right-hand side, you'll see a white block, and that's the Litchfield Middle School. In the center of the drawing, you'll see a red block, and that's the proposed footprint of the new elementary school. Over to the far left, it's a little hard to see, but this is an aerial photograph, is the Griffin Elementary School, and there's a large area, a large wooded area in between that's actually quite a beautiful area. The area that's going to be developed to the left of the Litchfield Middle School is about 12 to 13 acres total. It's quite a beautiful site for a school. It's heavily wooded right now. We're going to try to save as many trees as possible to keep the feeling of the site, especially to the north, the west, and the south are quite nice because the site is about 20 feet higher than the ground that Griffin Memorial sits on. And so it'll have some views down into the woods and beyond to Griffin. We've had a number of studies done up to verify the viability of the site for a new school. We've had meetings with the Department of Education. We've had meetings with police and fire, with the roads agent, codes enforcement officer. We've had wetlands mapped. We've had soil tests done where they came on site and dug test pits. They dug around 30 test pits to determine the character of the soil. We've had a traffic study done to study the impact of the additional traffic on McElwain and how that traffic should circulate on the site once it gets there. And we have a consultant on board who's working on the location of a septic field because this building, like the middle school, will have an on-site septic system. There will, however, be municipal water coming to the site. The soils report was so good that the soils are high enough quality under the building that we'll be able to reuse them under the parking lots and under the building, which is a terrific thing from a budgeting standpoint. A lot of sites have soils that are so poor that you can't use them. You have to bring in sand and gravel off-site, and that's a fairly costly thing to do. In your case, you have about 15 feet of glacial till above ledge and above the water table, which means that it's a very, very good site from a technical standpoint and will minimize your construction costs in that area. Access to McElwain on the bottom of the screen that you see, that white band is McElwain Street, will remain the primary access to the site. All cars and buses will come up that way, but there is a secondary emergency egress off of the site that I'll get to in a moment. Some road improvements will be required to McElwain in order to handle the left and right turns on and off of McElwain, but those are modest in size. And the traffic study that was done says that there's no need to widen McElwain because it's plenty large right now to handle both the existing traffic and what we'll bring to the site. One of the most important things in deciding where to put a building on a site is to look at the solar orientation. And to orient all of you at home, the top of your drawing is roughly due north. So you can see that the building footprint is oriented so that the front of the building faces roughly south and east. This is the ideal orientation for passive solar gain. It means that we'll get the most impact from the sun during the day. And we've turned the building so that there'll always be sunlight on the building of, say, 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon when the kids and the teachers and most of the people are in the building. This makes a very welcoming entrance to the building. And the other effect that it has is heat reflecting off of the building from the sun helps to melt snow and ice that accumulate after storms. So get a little help from Mother Nature to make the entrance to the building safe. In terms of the configuration of the plan, the building has the configuration that you see on your screen, which is kind of an L-shaped configuration that's bent in the middle, because that is the space available on site after you put in place the parking, the bus drop-off, the parent drop-off, playgrounds, play fields, service drive, and all of those items. So the building is efficient in its layout and is taking advantage of the site. And in fact, the soils in those areas are very, very good as well. And I'll talk in more detail in a few minutes about where exactly each piece of the building is in the plan. The first thing you do when you start laying out a site plan for a new school is attempt to separate the buses from the cars from the pedestrians. This is an issue right now with the Litchfield Middle School, in that in the morning and in the afternoon, as I'm sure many of you know already, buses and cars compete with each other for the driveway space and the stacking space to drop kids off or to pick them up, and it lengthens the amount of time that it takes for that activity to happen. And it also mixes buses and cars and pedestrians walking in between them, which is inherently an unsafe situation that is attempted to be rectified in this plan. So when we started the layout, the first thing we did is we laid out a bus loop for the new elementary school. On the screen that you see in front of you, there are two red circles. The left-hand one locates the bus loop for elementary school. On the right-hand side, the right-hand circle shows you where the buses for the Litchfield Middle School will now drop off. So what will happen, buses will enter the site, they'll go straight up to the middle of the site, drop off kids at the elementary school, and then leave, go up and pick the middle school kids, come back to the site, and then turn right this time and drop off students on the upper side of the Litchfield Elementary School. And in that way, we'll keep the buses separated from the cars, and they can stack there for as long as they want to and not interfere with any pedestrian or vehicle traffic. In the next slide, we show you where the parent drop-offs are proposed to be. On the left-hand circle, that you see the parent drop-off for the elementary school, and you can see between the bus loop and the parent loop, so that those two vehicle circulation systems never cross each other. And the way that parents will drop off kids, they'll drive onto the site, and instead of going straight like the buses will do, they'll turn left, go up to that loop, stack up, drop the kids off, and then pull out and leave, and again, not have to ever cross the traffic of the buses. In the case of the Litchfield Middle School, what will happen in the right-hand circle is the drop-off driveway in front of the school that exists now will now be dedicated just to automobiles and to parents. Parents will come into the site, turn right, pull up in front of the Litchfield Middle School, drop off kids, and then circle back around and leave the site again, separated and staying away from the bus loop circulation for the Litchfield Middle School. The entrances to the building are shown in circles, and we highlight those again to show you how both the bus and car drop-offs are focused right in the front of the building to make the walk from those areas as short as possible, especially in bad weather, and to make the front entrance visible from the administration area so that they can see who's coming into the building and who's pulling up and when the buses are there, and also to provide a circulation path for the students from the drop-off areas into the building as well as between the two schools, so that all the resources in each school can be shared by each school. In this next slide, we're showing a layout of the proposed parking area. On the right-hand side, inside of that circle, is the existing parking lot for the Litchfield Middle School. And one of the nice things about the project is that by building the new building, you'll be able to remove the portables from that area and thus increase your parking in that area substantially. On the left-hand side, inside of that circle, is parking for the elementary school. We're proposing about 150 spaces in that area. And the nice thing about the placement of both of those lots is that they can be shared by either school when you have after-hour. For example, if you have a basketball game at the middle school or a play going on at the elementary school, and you have a lot of parents coming in that night, you'll be able to use either one of those parking lots for either one of those schools because they're adjacent to each other and roughly equidistant between the two schools, and thereby eliminate other problems that we heard in interviews with the custodial staff and the bus drivers and administration about the crush of cars and people parking on grass and blocking each other when you have major events. So that's another existing problem that'll get solved by the new building. In this circle, you can see a new configuration for playfields. Since The middle school and the elementary school will now be on the same site. We're expanding and building a new playfield to the right of the playfield that now exists for the middle school, so we'll be moving the line of the woods back to the right, to the east. And we have enough room to put a small softball field that will overlap the existing middle school field, so that you can have a variety of school-related and community activities in that area. Also, you can see in the upper left-hand side, inside of the circle, there is a playground area is in that location because the right-hand side of the building plan, as you'll see in a minute, is where the cafeteria and the gymnasium are located. So the typical pattern that we discovered in visiting the school and spending some time at Griffin and watching how the students move through the building during the course of the day is that they go to the cafeteria for lunch, and then they leave that building, that space immediately, and go outside to play when the weather is good enough. So it made sense to put the playground directly adjacent to the cafeteria to shorten that walk, so it'll be much, much shorter than the walk that the kids experience now at Griffin. And it'll also put it adjacent to the gymnasium, which makes an obvious connection between the indoor and the outdoor play areas. In the next slide, we're showing the service entrance for the building. So the trucks that come on site and deliver goods and services to the building will come onto the site, turn left, and there's a service drive that loops around the left-hand side of the building to a service entrance in the back. So the dumpster, the transformer, all of those service support spaces will be screened by the building and will be set in the back. And then if you can see on your screen at the inside the circle at the top, there's a note, there's an arrow pointing off the site, and that is the approximate location of the second emergency egress driveway, which will exit through a development that's about to be built off into that area, so that if in the event of a fire or an emergency, if McElwain was blocked, the fire department or emergency service from the back side, and there'll be a gate there, that only emergency services and custodians would have a key to, so it can stay locked and not be a place where cars could normally enter the site, but only for emergency access. So that's a good compromise between having two accesses to the site, but not bringing cars through another area of the town. What you have in front of you is the current building layout. And again, this layout is a product of many hours of interviews with the staff, with custodians, with administrators inside of the building, and then looking at numerous potential configurations of the plan with the building committee. There were 3 final plans that the building committee looked at, and this was the one that they chose as meeting their needs and as being the most efficient and working for their educational programs in the best way. So what I'm going to do now is to walk everybody through the building, and we've highlighted areas one by one so that you can see how it's put together. But basically, the way that it's organized is that on the left-hand side of the plan is the library, and it's in that location, if you might remember from the earlier site drawing, because that's an area that gets morning, noon, and afternoon light, so it gets sunlight all day long, and it also has the best view on that bluff overlooking the forest and overlooking Griffin. And then on the right-hand side is the gymnasium and cafeteria, which is located there because of the location of the playgrounds and playfields, as I discussed before. In this first slide, there's a gray area to the left of the main entrance, which is in the center, and that's basically the administrative offices, some special ed rooms, guidance, counselors' offices, all those kind of basic administrative functions. The admin offices and reception area are right at the front entrance, and there'll be a lot of glass between the lobby and that area so that they can see everybody that comes into the building. They can control it from a safety and security standpoint, and no one can get past them without going through the admin area before they get into the building. So this will provide a lot of safety for the kids. The second area on your screen that's highlighted is a learning center. Again, that's a special needs program, and it's in this area because it's directly adjacent to the library. That makes a nice programmatic connection because this group of people can use the library frequently, and again, it's in a nice sunny part of the building. The next area to see is the library proper. The biggest space on the left-hand side is the actual reading room and circulation area, and the little rooms up above that are colored are the librarian's office and some storage rooms, things like that. But again, it's located there because that's a very nice solar orientation and good views. And it'll be a quiet area of the building because it'll be tucked up next to the forest. The right-hand side of the plan, where the gym will be a little bit busier part of the site because there's parking over there and playgrounds, and so it made sense to put the library in a quieter area. The colored area that you see now are the two classroom wings. In this basic plan, there will be a pre-K and a K classroom, which are currently in your program at Griffin, and then there will be another 30 classrooms to cover at the initial part grades 1 through 4. So at 20 students per classroom, you need 30 classrooms to meet the target of 600 students. And the way that it'll work, there's a separate bond item on the referendum to vote for 4 additional pure kindergarten classrooms and to initiate a regular kindergarten program. And if that is approved by the voters, then essentially what will happen is the wing that you see on the left-hand side will just extend by 4 classrooms down below. On the right-hand side, continuing to rotate around the building, are art and music and some additional special ed and special needs programs. Art and music are in that area because it's nice to make those functions visible, because that hallway is the hallway that connects the classroom wing to the cafeteria and the gymnasium, so will be used frequently during school. And the music room is the one that's closest to the gymnasium, because in this plan, as you see now, the gymnasium will have the stage on it. There was a request to have a normal size regulation gymnasium, which is a 50 by 84 foot court. And there was also a request for 250 bleacher seats, which is on the left-hand side of the gym, and on the right-hand side of the gym will be the stage. So the gym will be the big phys ed space, and it'll also be the big assembly, music, and drama space. This is the location of the cafeteria. This is the location of the cafeteria. Again, it's in this location in part because it's close to the playground area. It's also in that location because it's nice to have sunshine in the cafeteria all day long, because the cafeteria will be used not just in the middle of the day for lunches, but it'll be used all day long for group activities, for when you need a large room to put a bunch of kids in to do a special educational program. That's a space that'll be available for that. So it's nice to have that on the south where it'll get light all day long. And it's also nice to have it there because it makes it easy for us to have an evening event that may use either the gymnasium or the cafeteria, and we can lock a pair of doors at the corridor that's just across the hall from the cafeteria and lock off the entire rest of the school, but allow community use of the gym and the cafeteria and their toilets and bathrooms and telephones and vending machines for after-hours use. So this extends the use of the building very effectively into the evening without having to open up the entire building when you've got an event there. In similar fashion, if there's an after-hours event in the library or in the administration offices, you can lock off the classroom wings in the same fashion, so you can reduce the amount of area that people can circulate in and the amount of area that you're heating and that you have lights on for special events, which makes it very economical and very useful for community use. The gray areas that you see are essentially core and support spaces. On the right-hand side of the cafeteria is the kitchen. The boiler room, mechanical spaces are up above that, and the rest of the gray spaces are, for the most part, toilets, either student toilets or public toilets. This is a copy of the second floor plan, and again, it just stacks over the first floor plan, which is a very economical way of doing things. And it gets you the total number of classrooms, 30, as I said before, that you need for the project. And the reason that the plan is organized like this in general, with a smaller second story than you have as a first story, as you can see in this slide, is because the code requires that all common spaces, or all spaces that any kindergartner or first grader would be in, have to be on the first floor. That kindergarten and first grade kids are not supposed to be up on the second floor. The code has a concern about mixing kids of different ages and different sizes in the event of an emergency. And so to be cautious, it requires that all common spaces like the library, the cafeteria, all the special ed spaces, admin offices, guidance, those kinds of rooms are all on the first floor. So in order to make the plan as economical as possible, we put those on the first floor, but then we go and stack the classrooms that we need in third and fourth grades up on the second floor because it's economical to build that way. These are core spaces up on the second floor, mechanical rooms, toilets, elevator shaft, that kind of basic support programs. And I guess I would note one other thing, that the building itself has a basic double-loaded corridor plan, which is very economical use of space. And what that means is that there's a corridor running down through the middle of the building, and it's lined on either side by classroom space. And that's one of the most efficient ways that you can build a building, as well as providing natural light into all the rooms that the children would be in, which is a very important thing in the design of a school. The other thing that we like to do in our schools whenever possible is to try to create some symmetry. And you can see that the left-hand side of the plan and the right-hand side of the plan have a lot of things in common. They're not quite mirror images of each other, but they have a lot of similarities. And what that means from a construction standpoint is that you'll reduce construction costs, and it makes it simpler to build, and there are a few economies of scale for doing it that way. This slide is a very preliminary look at what the massing of the building might look like. What we're showing is a pitched roof on the front of the building on the one-story part. And on the center of the building, you see there's a gable that will take you into the lobby and the main entrance. The gable is there in order to shed snow and ice and rain away from those front doors, which protects the doors and extends their life, and also reduces the potential of people slipping as they come into the building. The gable on the left-hand side of the plan is a gable over the library. On the right-hand side of the plan, there's a gable over the cafeteria. And then the sloped roof over the front wing hides the fact that there's a two-story classroom wing behind it, which is a helpful thing to do in an elementary school when you have children of this age and of this size, because it makes the building look smaller than it actually is, and makes the scale of the building feel more domestic and more New England in its character. But again, the pitched roof is something that's being considered for the plan right now, but is not set in stone yet. It's something that'll be reviewed by the building committee after the referendum. This is a close-up view of the 3D model of the entrance to the building, and this again is one idea of what it might look like. This is by no means a final design, but the design principles here are that since you have children of a very small size and a very young age, it's nice to scale the entrance down by having a porch in front of the building like you see here, so that the entrance of the building feels more like entering a house at that point rather than a school of the size that is being built. And there's been some consideration about the potential of a clock tower. That's not firm yet, but it's something that is being looked at and will be discussed by the building committee at a later date. The other thing that we try to do for schools at this age group is on the inside of the building, since the children are very, very small, is we'll actually go to the school and we'll measure the eye level of the smallest kindergarten children and the tallest fourth grader, and we'll try to put all of the bulletin boards and display boards and windows into rooms and display cases down at that level, so as the children are walking through the building will feel very open to them, and they can look into rooms and see what's going on. We do the same thing on the exterior windows of the building, so that a child going up to an exterior window, the sill of that window will be below their head, so that they can look out. The experience of the child in the building much nicer. It makes it feel like the building really belongs to them. Faculty and staff and administrators about the space needs at the Griffin Memorial School and how we could meet them in the new school. The current plan that we're looking at, the latest iteration of it, is about 88,000 square feet in size. It's down quite a bit from earlier versions that we've been discussing with the public at the earlier information meetings. And again, at the deliberative session, we'll have a handout for the floor plans and the site plan, and we'll be able to talk in great detail about all of the features of the building and answer all of your questions.
The school board has looked at proposing a 15-year bond or 20-year bond, and will be receiving specific information by deliberative session. Right now, the preliminary amounts are coming in at, for the first year's tax impact on a per $1,000 of the tax rate is less than $1. Year 2 is always your most expensive year, and it declines after that. And right now, the preliminary information is about $3, slightly under. Those will be firmed up, and information will be available at deliberative session. Deliberative session is a very important meeting to attend. The deliberative session is the opportunity for the taxpayers to receive information and to debate the merits of the various warrant articles. Warrant articles may be amended at the deliberative session up or down by a majority vote of the people attending deliberative session. Those items that are changed or those items that remain unchanged are the items that you will then vote on March 9th at the polls. It is very important that you come to deliberative session. This year, deliberative session for the school district will be held on February 7th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This is a change, and this is based on input last year with a request that it be made more accessible to people with families and young children. So please plan to attend at 1 o'clock at Campbell High School, the school district deliberative session.
Thank you for watching. We do have a website, and that address will be on the screen. We hope that you will contact the website for more information you might have. We also would like to remind you, of course, that the deliberative session will be at Campbell High School on Saturday, February 7th at 1 o'clock, and to vote also at Campbell High School on March 9th. Thank you again for viewing.